Good evening and welcome to 1010 News, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. Russia has begun to increase its global military presence in a scale not seen since the Cold War. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu announced on Wednesday that the Russian Air Force will be conducting long-range flights deep into the Western Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, as well as the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico to maintain the Russian military presence there. These types of flights are technically legal as they are conducted mostly over international airspace. However, the hike in Russian military activity in the air has seen provocative maneuvers by fully armed fighter pilots and near misses with civilian aircraft, both of which can lead to potentially disastrous consequences. Many analysts are seeing the long-range flights near the United States, one of which took place just 50 miles off the coast of California, as a Russian response to what they perceive as the West violating their sovereignty over their neighboring states. So far, the 29 air incidents, 8 maritime incidents, and 1 abduction, as indicated by the European Leadership Network, clearly demonstrates the rebirth of the old West versus East scenario of the Cold War. Of course, all this comes with the recent announcement by NATO Commander General Philip Breedlove that the Russian military, this time perhaps armed with nuclear or nuclear support capabilities, is once again heading into Ukraine after a brief ceasefire. As always, the Russians denied the accusation. Military spokesperson Igor Konashenko publicly denounced Breedlove's alarmist anti-Russian allegations. It is true that NATO has lost quite a bit of what we would call street cred these days. In Turkey, 3 American sailors of the missile destroyer USS Ross were attacked by neo-nationalist members of the Turkish Youth Union. The attackers forced bags on the sailors' heads and chanted the old slogan of Yankee Go Home while carrying Turkish flags and a portrait of the founder of modern-day Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Turkey is supposed to be a crucial Western ally, especially these days in the ground war against ISIS, but their lackluster support for the campaign against the terrorist organization and their sloppy handling of the assault on the sailors is indicating otherwise. ISIS, as you all know, is the radical Sunni militant group that is taking Syria by storm and undoing everything that the American military has done during the Iraq War. After deciding that making millions through their prolific black markets wasn't enough, ISIS announced yesterday that they will be minting their own currency to fund their war against humanity. They do say that it is to save Muslims from a global economic system that is based on satanic usury, but who knows, it might be to celebrate the apparent reappearance of ISIS's leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi after his reported death in an airstrike. Sure, the world seems to be falling apart right now with the economy, the wars, the retreat from knowledge and justice, but we have to at least keep a surface image of stability. Therefore, world leaders met for the APEC Trade Summit in Beijing and met again for the G20 Summit in Brisbane, Australia. In the controversial APEC Summit, in which, by the way, President Obama's gum chewing and apparent bowing to President Xi of China came under ridiculous criticism by some news media, Presidents Obama and Xi made a landmark effort to cut greenhouse emissions. I think the bigger problem with the environment is Senator James Inhofe is to lead the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, considering he's one of the biggest names in climate change denial in Washington, D.C. Anyways, the G20 Summit, which is happening right now, has been under preparation for the past 2 years. Hopefully it yields some positive results for the future. One thing that we can't cover up, no matter how many amiable global dinner parties we hold, is the absolute mess the Democratic Party is in right now. The Republican Party won the midterm elections in the largest win since World War II. To add insult on injury for the Democrats, it turns out that the Secret Service agent in charge of the K-9 unit during the White House fence jumping incident was making a personal phone call with his earpiece off. Along with many other mishaps along the way, of course, such as the radios not working and an agent being physically not strong enough to restrain the intruder. Anyways, about the elections, President Obama publicly took responsibility for the GGOP no-read that the Democrats had to face last week. However, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi still won't admit to a complete thrashing by the Republicans. I don't know about you, but hearing about the Colorado senator who honestly believes that the president is possessed by the devil, and how our government still refuses to believe in science and logic just frustrates me. The sheer stupidity of what goes on there, and I'm talking about both parties, drives the smart people away from politics. It's really a distressing problem that we need to solve. And speaking of distressing problems that we all want solved, but it's clearly not happening at the present, the parents of Michael Brown, the African-American teenager from Ferguson, Missouri, who was shot 6 times by police officer Darren Wilson, decided that the American justice system was not doing enough. They, according to CNN, testified before the United Nations Committee Against Torture, which also works against cruel or degrading treatment or punishment by government authorities in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, I'm not sure if the UN will be any more effective than the American justice system, but we'll just have to pray that justice will be served and set the groundwork for the campaign against police abuse and brutality around the world. Let's hope that the case also helps by police incompetence, as it was discovered recently that 5 detectives from the New Orleans Police Department's Special Victims Unit failed to report 1,111 sex crimes. Out of the 1,290 cases that they were in charge of, they reported only 14%. Even the high school senior in a week before summer vacation is not as lazy as that. Now, we still aren't sure if the detectives are just plain lazy or excessively evil, but one thing is completely clear. Justice must be served for the 1,111 cases that had it denied. Let's move on to Paris. Yes, the city of lights, and apparently the city of a tiger on the loose in the suburbs. French citizens reported that they had seen a young tiger strolling in the woods near Disneyland Paris. The case is still ongoing. France is known for its love affair with exotic domesticated animals, and it seems that this tiger is no exception. In London at the same time yesterday, the world's tallest and shortest man met for the first time in the 10th annual Guinness World Records Day. It's almost comic to watch Sultan Kosen, the 8'3" Turkish giant of a man, try to shake hands with Chandra Bahadur Dangi, a 21.5-inch Napoleon. That day, thousands of people from around the world took part in events to have their names forever recognized by the Guinness records. But if anybody's name, or in this case anything's name, needs to be forever remembered, it's Philae and Rosetta, the 2 European spacecraft named after the 2 discoveries that helped archaeologists decode the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Rosetta, the mothership, completed its 10-year, 6.4 billion mile long circuitous flight just 2 days ago when the landing craft Philae made a rough landing for the first time on a 2.5 mile wide comet named 67P. Finally, almost 30 light minutes away from Earth, the spaceship beamed back the first images of the comet to Darmstadt, Germany, the headquarters for the European Space Agency. I said a rough landing because there were many systems failures in the nearly weightless Philae, which weighs 2,200 pounds on Earth, actually bounced upon first contact and landed in a cliffside where the solar-powered craft may lack sufficient sunlight to function properly. Nevertheless, the mission is still being considered a success and a major milestone in human spaceflight. The craft will hopefully send us valuable information on comets, which are the residue from the formation of the solar system, and are basically huge bodies of dust and frozen water. It is believed by many that the liquid water here on Earth may have been from a comet impact. The mission cost each European citizen 3.5 euros. And that was 1010 News for this week. I'm Andy Hong. Make sure to like us on Facebook and YouTube for more. And we'll be back next week with more of your top 10 news in 10 minutes.